We are not experts on anything, and everything we say should be taken with a grain of salt. We do not condone illegal sports gambling, and all gambling should be done responsibly. If you have a gambling problem, call 1-800-GAMBLER. Now enjoy.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Shekel Up podcast, where we try to help you navigate the eternal abyss of the always stressful, mostly toxic, but very entertaining world of sports and sports gambling. I'm one of the hosts for this evening, Anthony.
K-Mac back here for another one. Let's go, man. Playoffs, a lot to talk about. Let's get into it.
Hunter Keister back here, another week in sports. Got some game sevens to discuss. Lots of basketball and hockey playoffs going on. Lots of interesting times going on in those sports, obviously, as it is getting down to the wire in both of those. In both of them conference finals, right? Conference finals in basketball, and
Yep.
it's definitely conference finals in hockey.
Yep, we're down to that now. Yes, sir. But, you know, have you guys ever been in such a hurry to get to something that all logic kind of disappears from your brain and your common sense? Like my man Scotty. I don't know. Scotty must not know. Scotty doesn't know that it's not that big of a deal to get to your tea time. He must be British because he was in such a hurry for his tea time.
No.
Come on.
No, you're wrong about that, though. You're wrong. It was 5 a.m. A crash had just happened. He was trying to get into the course. A police officer tripped out and had a power trip. And next thing you know, Scotty's like thinking he's being directed, and the cop wants to grab a hold of the car, and well, he found out the hard way.
Scotty doesn't know the traffic signs by the Popo man. Anyway, my man was in such a hurry to shoot a 66. He shot a 66 and then did absolutely nothing on Saturday and doesn't even make the championship. So, yeah.
I said it caught up to him because he started out pretty well. The morning after when he got out, he played pretty well, and then after that he kind of trailed off. And I said, yeah, the jail time must have caught up to him.
Yeah, no. Yeah, we'll see. I mean, he was. I think they detained him, and then all of a sudden he was out right before tea. He still made his tea time. So
yeah, and people were complaining about that. Like, no regular person would be able to be out of jail in time to make anything like that. Like, they would miss it for sure. But because it was him, he was quickly put through the process.
Yeah, well,
that's celeb treatment.
That's a yeah. Well, you know who was put through the process in a couple of game sevens over the last week were the Pacers and Knicks and the Timberwolves and the defending NBA champions and MVP. It was a close game. That Timberwolves and Nuggets game was pretty good. 98-90. Hopefully you guys put in that plus 800 that I told you to when it was plus 800. You should have did it. Hopefully you did it. I told you to keep riding it. But yeah, I mean, Pacers win game 7, 130-109 on the Knicks. I think the Pacers are better than what people were giving them credit for. So I don't know. Boston is a crazy favorite. We'll talk about them soon. Obviously, they have had a nice coasting, easy ride through the playoffs so far, but I think this is kind of where it gets a little bumpy. It's not going to be an easy ride to the finals. Siakam's been playing well. That whole Pacers team has been playing well. The Knicks just lost it, though, as far as like all their starters were probably just tired. We talked about it. They were drinking the Bugs Bunny juice, but eventually they sweat that shit out and couldn't take the pace of the Pacers. What do you think about that game, Kurt?
Yeah, this was honestly a very slept on series. If anyone missed it, went back and forth, but initially I kind of was leaning more towards the Pacers just due to the fact that New York had come off of a 7-game series versus the Sixers, and Thibodeau just didn't really he doesn't tap into his bench at all, and so a lot of their starters played 35, 40 minutes a game, and that's just hard to sustain for an entire series, especially with the Pacers being the highest scoring team in the NBA. It was a back and forth series, and eventually the injuries just kind of caught up to New York as the Pacers set a Game 7 record for best field goal percentage, shooting wise, 69.7. Siakam averaged about 22 points a game. Halliburton set a team record with 29 threes made in a series, and Pacers kind of got slept down a little bit, and this was a good series to watch. I would have liked to see what would have happened had New York stayed healthy, but, at this time of year, it's a little bit of everything with luck, skill, and experience all combined. You got to stay healthy, and that's kind of what we find out with that's what we found out with these Eastern playoffs. So definitely a good series, though.
Hunter, anything for that game, or do we move on to your Oklahoma City Thunder?
No, I'll talk about that game quickly. I mean, Kirk kind of hit the nail on the head in what I was going to say. The New York Knicks, they held in there. They had a good series. Brunson played pretty well with the supporting cast, but all those injuries just ate them up at the end. And ultimately, I think the Pacers were good, but I really think the Knicks might have got them in Game 7 if they stay healthy. But like you said, it's about skill, it's about luck, and it's about staying healthy. So that's what the Pacers were able to do, and they get a decisive win. But now, like we kind of said, or at least I said, I think that this next series with Boston will go 5 games, 6 games max, but Boston should handle the Pacers pretty easily, I think.
I don't know. The Pacers got some nice length, in my opinion. I mean, they got some decent length. They're not as long as the Timberwolves, but yeah, we'll find out. So the game 6, the game 6, 117 to 116. Mavs take it from the Oklahoma City Thunder. And it's just the star power. It's like I said, we kind of talked about it a little bit. Who can kind of keep up with Luka and Kyrie when Luka and Kyrie go off on the Thunder? And they ended up going off just enough. I mean, they obviously they went blow for blow in a lot of the games, and they were a lot of close games, but it's just that one little bit of an edge that they get, It's that one little bit. There's no star power on the Oklahoma City Thunder. Not like Luka and Kyrie. Not like Luka and Kyrie.
SGA matched
those
them.
Are some.
SGA
they're not dogs
game
like
for game. SGA matched them game for game.
That's one. That's one.
You said we have no stars. That's a star. We said we had no stars.
I said not like the Mavs do. And you don't have the stars like the Mavs do. Kyrie and Luka.
And they damn near
you don't
beat
have that
them.
tag team.
And they damn near beat them in Game 6.
Favored in a series, they didn't. Favored in a series, they did not.
We'll be back.
They were second. They were second to win the Western Conference, and they lost. I'm just saying.
We'll be back.
I'm just saying. I said that was a team you didn't want to see. It's all right. You'll be back. So will the Sixers, and they'll lose in round 2 like they normally do. So what happened that game, Hunter? I mean, what happened this series?
So, I mean, the series, I don't know. It was a good one. I think, like you said, the Thunder were a little bit outmatched, but I think that they showed that these young guys that they drafted and this younger team can really go blow for blow with these teams with superstars like the Mavs. And Game 6 was a perfect example of that. The Thunder, they rallied back. I'm pretty sure they were down in this game, like 10 points, if I remember. That could have been a different game, but I don't know. I just think that the young guys that, just came together and they gelled really well. I think it's disappointing as a 1 seed to already go out in round number 2. But like you said, it was just a really bad draw for the Thunder to get a weakened Pelicans team and then having to go against the Mavs with Luka and Kyrie. A rough draw for the second round, but no excuses. I think the Thunder they'll get older, they'll get develop more, and I think that hopefully they'll add another piece or two to that team, and I think that they can really be a competitive team in the West. But for right now, with the competitive game, came down to the very end. A foul call pretty much won it, as sent the Mavs to the line, and that won it for him. So OKC goes home, and we'll see what happens.
What about you, Kurt? What did you see in that series, man?
Yeah, I originally had OKC winning this series in 7 games. this was a very winnable series for OKC as they played really well defensively against those two, with Kyrie and Luka only holding them to 37 points, which is below their average for the season. And in game 5, OKC shot an all-time worst 10 of 40 from three-point range, and that'll do it to you. 10 from 40, 33s missed is dreadful. And in game 6, the final closeout game, OKC blew a 16-point halftime lead. You have to close that out. You have to find a way to close that out. And they got outscored 69-52 in the second half. And kind of what Hunter said, SGA had unfortunately foul in the corner there at the end. You know, I think you let him take that shot in the corner. If you foul, don't foul. Just don't foul. If he makes it, you know, kudos to him. But this was a very winnable series for OKC, but they're not going anywhere. This is obviously a really young team. Chet Holmgren was basically a rookie. I thought he could have played better at times. I feel like he could have gotten more boards. But, you know, Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, 35 for his last game, just an easy 30 every game, guaranteed consistently. Just kind of like what we mentioned when we previewed this series, who was going to step up for OKC and help score. And, you know, that's what cost them in the end. And Dallas moves on. Luka gets to another conference finals. So, and PJ Washington also was a big player that stepped up for Dallas big time.
I think I'm going to get a lot of flack for this when I say it, but Timberwolves in 5. Timberwolves in 5. That's my opinion there. This is almost the same concept of the Knicks. They've just getting beat. You know, the Knicks were just getting beat up and they're playing, and Luka and Kyrie are doing every single thing that they can. They are not going to be able to take the manpower that the Timberwolves are going to throw at them. They're going to get theirs. They're going to get theirs to an extent, but the length of the Timberwolves and the dog and Anthony Edwards. I mean, you got Karl Anthony Towns over there, and that dude that won the 6-man award for the Timberwolves. I forgot. I can't think of his name. Yeah, Reed. He's been balling out. Yep. So, I mean, that's 6 players that they got to deal with, and aside from the Timberwolves only having to deal with 2. So 5, I mean 6 max, but I really don't think they're going to get past 5 because the Timberwolves are the home team in this one. They don't have to go to Denver like they did before. Timberwolves were the 2nd seed this year, so now they, you know, Mavs have to go to Minnesota. So yeah, we'll see it. Timberwolves took down the champs and the MVP, man. I mean, I know that they were probably tired from last year, but they still took down the Nuggets, and the Nuggets weren't. I mean, we thought that it was going to be a sweep at first, the way that the Timberwolves were looking, and then all of a sudden they come back, and you know, the Nuggets come back, and all of a sudden the Timberwolves are in trouble, and it was a great series. I enjoyed it. I mean, what do you guys think?
Hardy, you want to go in first? Because I got a lot to say about this one.
Go ahead.
Okay. All right, here we go. As being a player kind of guy with the NBA, like I don't like teams, and there's a story behind that. I'm a big fan of Jokic, so to see how this all went down was weirdly wild the way this series turned. Like, kind of like you mentioned, it was 0-2 to start out. Denver goes ahead and wins 3 straight, and Jokic just kills the Timberwolves. They make adjustments. Jokic shows why he's the MVP. And then we get to game 7. So it's 3-2. We get to game 6, actually. My apologies. Game 6, the Timberwolves mop the floor with the Nuggets. I mean, they're up 70-115. They close that game out. The Denver players aren't even in. We get to game 7. And up to this point in this series, Jamal Murray has not played up to his standard whatsoever. And honestly, most of this series, he was a complete no-show. And other players stepped up like Aaron Gordon, a little bit of Michael Porter Jr. But in game 7, and we watched this game, Hunter, our friend Brandon and I, we watched this game. It was a good game to watch, but lots of turns, twists. So in game 7, Jamal Murray shows up with a big first half, 20 points. And they don't go to him really at all in the second half. And the Nuggets have a big-time lead, They're up 53-38. In the second half, the Nuggets absolutely quake. They absolutely quake. And it was unbelievable to watch because up to this point, the Timberwolves looked dead in the water. They looked dead. I mean, Anthony Edwards had a horrible game. 6 of 24
Yeah.
from the field. That's not going to do it. 2 from 10 from 3. I thought Jaden McDaniels played big time for the Timberwolves and keep them in there along with Cat. McDaniels shot 7 from 10 and 3 from 4 on three-pointers. But in the second half, Jokic was dreadful, 2 for 10 on threes. Michael Porter Jr., who's their third star, just a good, decent player, 1 from 6 on 3, 3 from 12. Aaron Gordon, 0 boards in the second half. The Nuggets played a great first half, but the second half, they looked like they couldn't hit a board if they built a brick house. And that was shocking. That was hard to see. I was like, I can't believe this is happening. Like, they really were smoking the Timberwolves. And I think, if I'm not mistaken, this is the biggest blown Game 7 lead of all time.
Yeah.
So we got to witness history. And
because when I checked in, I'm like, damn, the Timberwolves are going to lose this game.
Yep.
Like, I guess I'm going to have to eat my words on the podcast. But they ended up pulling it out. And even from the score, man, the box score shows it was an ugly game. Like you said, all the missed shots, 98-90. I know it's almost 100 points, but that's almost a low-scoring NBA game. I mean, the other two games go for over 100 each.
Oh, absolutely. When you consider players who are in this game with Jokic, Jamal Murray, and then Anthony Edwards, Karl Anthony Towns, you would think for sure maybe 110, 108, something like that. But kind of like how the Mavs Thunder series was, these series were more low scoring, a little more defensive, kind of defensive oriented. And that just shows, Minnesota was the number 1 defense, and they did their thing, man. So good for them. They've been in the playoffs a couple of years in a row now, and they've been bounced out early. And all kudos to them. They did it. So now they will go to the conference finals where they'll meet the Mavs.
Yeah, and Jokic can go back to his horses, man. Yeah, he can go play with his ponies and be happy. Just live life, bro. just absolutely.
Yeah, basketball to him is just a job. It's really not a big deal to him. You can just tell.
And you can tell he's probably even the pressers. He's like, oh yeah, well, see you next season. Like,
Yep.
It's time for Hunter's Hockey Hits on the Shuttle Up Podcast, brought to you by Hunter Keiser.
all right, so before we get to all the conference stuff for NBA, I do want to talk a little bit about reaction to some hockey action. We had a few Game 6s and some Game 7s here for some NHL action. Hunter, let's bring it around.
Let's get it. Let's go. We'll start off on Friday. This is game number 6. Florida-Boston kicks us off. And this game is low scoring, very defensive, very physical. Like this series has been, these two teams, division foes, they know each other well. Florida pulls out the win 2-1 in Boston to send Boston packing once again and eliminate them 4-2. Then we will move to another game 6. This is Dallas and Colorado. Another road game on the ice as Dallas is in Colorado for this one. This is another low scoring, another physical division matchup. Colorado might be in the Central. I might be mistaken on that, but they're definitely well known. They play each other a lot. And this game goes double overtime. Crazy series back and forth. And this game 6 goes to double overtime. And the Dallas Stars are able to pull it out 2-1. And this comes with a crazy story. So one of their former star players, Matt Duchene, is not re-signed by the Colorado Avalanche. And in game number 6, in double overtime, it's Matt Duchene with the goal to send Colorado out of the playoffs. and then he's skating away after he scores the goal, and he does a heartbreaker celebration. It's one of the coolest celebrations I've seen ever. Oh, it's great.
Yeah, well, chip on his shoulder.
Yeah, definitely. You know that was a little personal for him to be able to do that, especially in Colorado in front of all the fans. So, just a really crazy moment, and that moved us on to Saturday. That was a really two really good games of hockey there Friday. Saturday, it was game number 6. You want to add anything, Tony? Are we getting
No, I mean
Okay,
the game number 6. I mean, we saw the Oilers. I watched a lot of that game, game 7. That's the game that I watched on Saturday. I know you're probably going to talk another game, but
Right,
the Oilers and the Canucks, man, were really going at it too in that game 7. So, like, not game 7, game 6 on Saturday, and then they ended up doing the game 7 yesterday. Correct?
absolutely, yes. Yep. So
Right.
game
Yep.
6, Edmonton a chance to win and close out. Edmonton got to win, or they're going to get closed out by Vancouver. They're at home. Edmonton was, and they come out for this game 6, and they just dominate from start to finish. This is a 5-1 win after it's a 1-1 first period, 2 goals for Edmonton in the second, and 2 in the third. So,
Okay.
very good game. And
Now,
they forced
I know you said that
on Monday.
there's a Canada stigma in the league where like they kind of like bad luck or something like that you were talking about last time.
Well,
now that they're the only
okay,
the only
keep
Canadian
going,
team
keep going.
left, right? So if they're the
Yeah,
only Canadian team left, that means what? That means they're not gonna make this conference finals. They're not gonna make the Stanley Cup, right?
Well, the stigmatism is just basically all the Canada teams, for as good as they're supposed to be, they're supposed to dominate hockey. You know, Canada, they love hockey so much. It's been 30 years, and not one of the 4 Canada teams have even came close to a Stanley Cup. And it's crazy because they just
Detroit don't count. Detroit's pretty close. Detroit's pretty close to Canada. Are you sure that don't count?
No, Detroit's still USA. Hey, we here in the US, we need all 50 of them states because that's what we're rooting for. We hate Canada.
So it sounds like Canadian teams are pretty much overrated. Like
Oh, absolutely. Especially Edmonton. I'm sure we'll get into a little bit more of that later, but especially Edmonton.
Seems like there's a lot of overrated things in hockey. Right?
Fair.
Players.
Taking shots.
I don't get it.
No, I'm setting you up for. I'm trying to set you up for a player that you wanted to ask me about.
Oh, McDavid. Yeah, McDavid being overrated.
Yeah, see, look at you. Yes. Totally. I gave you a putt hole in one. I lubed it up for you.
Listen, Tony, you had a perfect pass, one timer, and I just either missed it or blew it above the net.
You passed it back.
I had the alley. Hey, I had
open shot.
We had a 3-on-1, and I just passed it backwards. That's what I did right there. Anyway, let's actually score the goal this time. So yes, I do remember exactly what I'm talking about now, which was Connor McDavid after 9 years in the NHL. Obviously, this could change with them staying alive in Game 7, but 9 years in the NHL, no Stanley Cup appearances. Obviously, no Stanley Cups. I mean, for as good as he was supposed to be, this generational guy that they've been so hyped on, especially the people of Canada, obviously. And I just wanted to pose a question. Just think about this. Generational guy, supposed to be a star player. He's definitely the number one of their team. They put a decent team, not the best team, but he doesn't have a terrible team around him. It's definitely good. And year 9, nothing to show for it.
I mean, I guess like what defines this is a great kind of segue into what we'll be talking about as soon as these playoffs end. what defines greatness? And what defines you being overrated? Is it championships? Is it skills? It's a great conversation to have, right? And I guess it's a matter of opinion. So if you think stats and the way you play and some people consider even just people being a great leader makes you a great player, along with having the stats. Like the championships are great because let's face it, Nick Foles has a Super Bowl, right? But is he as great as Aaron Rodgers? They both have the same number of Super Bowls and MVPs and Super Bowl MVPs.
Yeah,
I'm just saying, like people who
the answer to
say
that question is yes.
people that say, well, it's championships. Okay, well, then Nick Foles has got to be considered in that great category.
He is. He
I'm
is.
just saying.
Right.
I don't know exactly. Nick Foles is greater than Dan Marino. Yes.
Right.
Yes. Bill. I'm sure when we built our greatest, our prototype, our
We should have
quarterback
Nick
that we
Foles in
wanted.
there. Yes.
Nobody had the greatest quarterback of all time in Nick Foles.
Right. Nobody used Nick Foles. How dare we? How dare we disrespect the GOAT?
So you tell me, Hunter, what would make McDavid a great player to some people, and what would make people think he's overrated?
Well, that's where I kind of have to separate the two that you just said, because I do think McDavid's a great player, but I just think as the leader, you say a great player makes somebody not overrated, or a great leader makes somebody not overrated. I think that the fact that he's the leader of that team, it's been 9 years, they have at least a good team around him, and he hasn't even been to the Stanley Cup once.
That could just be but it is a team sport, right? So we got to think about it like that. It is a team sport, and hockey's not easy. It's not if the team isn't together, because it's not even about like even basketball is about your starting lineup 90% of the game, 80% of the game. Hockey, it's about more than your starting squad. You got lines. It's line 1, line 2, line 3. It's about interchanging all those players together, and that's why it's hard for me to blame one guy and call somebody like that overrated when how many people are on the ice? How many players are on the ice, Hunter? What, 6, 7?
So it's 5 skaters and a goalie.
Right, so 6 on the ice. So you're talking about 5 getting interchanged all the time, and you usually got about 3 lines. So you're talking about 15 players that affect the whole entire game? That's a lot. That's more than football. That's more than basketball, obviously. So I mean, that's kind of the route I would have to go. I would say if he's got good stats and he's accomplished in the playoffs, maybe not a Stanley Cup, but maybe he's been to the playoffs an amount of times, I would say they're not overrated. I mean, because one of my favorite players is Claude Giroux, and he was on some shitty Flyer teams.
Yeah,
but I think he's a great player.
Yeah.
And he got drafted with Sidney Crosby, and that's who he was always compared to, was Sidney Crosby. And because we all know Sidney Crosby is a great player. And I think Giroux is up there, but because he was on some shitty Flyer teams with shitty management and shitty GM,
he never got showed off.
He just never got
sabotaged.
Yep.
Yeah. So that's my opinion.
Yeah, I was just gonna dive in. So Hunter, so I'm not all familiar with hockey, as you know. So have they gotten to the playoffs and he's just quaked them away, or have they really not even gotten to the semifinals or the championship round, and they just haven't been able to at least punch their ticket in?
See, I'm not an encyclopedia like you, so I can't just research back to old playoffs. But I do.
Okay,
I'll say this. All I can remember is Edmonton being close, but just them just not getting there, just not having enough firepower. Really, yeah. But I will say this though, and I wanted to add this before we get away from it. So this Game 7, I don't know if Edmonton knew the surge was coming, because Edmonton was up in this game 2-0 for most of the game. Vancouver makes a surge in the third period to tie it up, to tie it up, and then Edmonton, I believe, won it. But anyways, McDavid, 5 minutes of ice time in 2 periods before the third period. He wasn't even playing in the Game 7, which I thought was absurd.
What?
He was healthy and all, just not playing around 5 minutes of ice time before the third period. He probably played a lot of the third period, but I just thought that was.
That's
I
a
remember hearing
crucial
that
moment where you can't just have
in
your
a
best
game
player
7.
sitting.
In a game 7, hearing their star only played 5 minutes up to that point, my jaw dropped. I was like,
Wow.
I gotta mark this down. That was wild.
Well, yeah, so she wrote. So what's next on the list for here? We're gonna jump back to NBA real quick because now between the two games, we got all the games out of the way, right? We got all of what happened. Now it's time for conference finals in both sports. And this is where the 4 best teams are all going at it in each league. So let's talk about it. We got the Boston Celtics. They are a -1,000 to win the series against the Pacers, who are plus 760. That is the love. Give me the fucking Pacers. At that value, I don't know why Boston is that heavy. That heavy.
Right.
I will take the Pacers to win that game because that number is going to come down. I'm going to get some cash out money. Even if the Pacers don't win, the value there is great. All right. So that's for the Eastern Conference Finals. Those are the odds. Western Conference Finals. Minnesota. -168. It's a very close one because to win the series over the Mavs at +142.
That's close. That's close.
Yeah. So they think that's going to be a
really
closer matchup. I think so, but at the same time, like, I just don't know. It's almost how I said, like, the Thunder and the Mavs. I just don't know how the Thunder was going to keep up with the Mavs. I don't know how the Mavs are going to keep up with the Timberwolves because even the Mavs, I don't think they have the defense. I don't think they have the defense to keep up with the Timberwolves. That's the thing, and the Timberwolves are good on both sides of the ball, offense and defense. So can the Mavs keep up? Like, I don't know why that series is so close. I would have gave the Timberwolves maybe +300 max, but this are not plus, but -300 max, but -168. I don't know. What do you guys think? What do you guys think about the series odd for Boston and the Pacers first?
I think that's crazy, absurd, way too much value. Like you said, I think sprinkling a little bit on the chance that Indiana, like, because they're no slouches. Like, they got here for a reason. I know that everybody's like, the Eastern Conference is weak, and I will scream that from the rooftop, especially being a Thunder fan and liking the West. I will scream that from the rooftop. But I also think that Indiana is still a good basketball team, and I think that's a lot of value. Like you said, especially if they were to steal a game, then you might even get some cash out opportunities. So,
Kurt?
Yeah, I got a little something to say about this one. So with Boston and Indiana, I think the Pacers are getting slept on big time, especially in this series. My prediction is I think this probably goes 6 in favor of Boston, 4-2. Boston since 2022 at home have an 18-14 win-loss playoff record. So I know for whatever reason, people come into their trap and take over. So I definitely fully expect Indiana to at least steal one game in Boston. So I would definitely look more or less to game 2 in a couple of days if you want to put some money on that. That'll probably be a heavy line in Boston's favor again, as today's line for me I saw was 10.5 favor of Boston. And I think Indiana has a chance to really keep this competitive. I don't think they'll win the series necessarily, but I definitely think there's value in them getting 2 games. I think they'll win, like I said, 1 game at Boston, and I think they'll get a game at home for sure. Indiana scores at a high rate. They play a high pace, no pun intended, but literally they do. Like, they don't dribble the clock out. They pass the ball around well, and they look for quick, faster shots to get into.
Siakam's defense, he's been pretty good in the playoffs when it comes to defense. He's been guarding that. Yeah, he's been guarding the paint pretty well. So
yeah, him and Miles Turner. Miles Turner is also a pretty good center who can.
Oh yeah. Miles
he's
Turner
a good
too.
stretch. He's been shooting 46% from 3-point range, and then you got Halliburton, who at times can be passive, but when he's actually aggressive, he can really score the rock. And then I like T.J. McConnell off the bench. I know Boston's got a deep team too. So
drafted by the Sixers, let go after 6 or 7 seasons by the Sixers.
Yeah, I think he's a I think he's a low key good piece for them off the bench. And
Yeah, he's a he's a good. That's the thing. They didn't need bench pieces, and that was a good thing. He was a good fill in for the point guard and stuff like that. So I like TJ McConnell.
But yeah, I mean, when you look at the road for both squads, unfortunately, injuries played a part in that. I mean, Indiana played the Bucks, obviously with Giannis being hurt, and then the last round, the Knicks, it's just how shit went. And then Boston played Miami without Butler, and then I really would like to see what have happened in that Cleveland series had Mitchell been healthy, because there was a couple games there where if Mitchell was in there, he really could have really gotten Boston nervous, but it is what it is. Injuries are part of the game. But nonetheless,
I would have
had
liked to have
Boston-
seen them versus Miami with Butler. You know,
Yeah.
Butler wasn't gonna have. They wouldn't have that easy of a road if they would have had Butler.
No, absolutely not. As Miami has been Boston's kryptonite in recent memory. So
Yeah, as soon as Butler went down, you know, everybody in Boston was throwing confetti.
no doubt. But I think this is I think they'll beat the Pacers in 6. So that's what I got. What about you,
Yeah,
Lon?
well, in game one, I was gonna tell you, in game one, it's a 10-point line, and the Pacers are plus 360,
Yeah,
and
it's
Boston
on right
is a
now.
minus 146.
It's a close game, isn't it? Decently
Yeah.
close.
Yeah,
Unfortunately,
Unfortunate-
Boston came out firing 16-0, but Indiana is really feared back their way. It looks like it's
and that's kind of been the
Second
story of
quarter now.
Indiana too, because they did that a lot against the Knicks. And unfortunately, it's going to be hindsight by the time folks hear this podcast. But the people on YouTube watching it, if you're watching it live, they at least can get some of these numbers now. So yeah, and the over under for this game is 222. So that's kind of nuts. But let's move over to the other side of the country.
That'll be probably really close. I bet you that'll be a real close line.
The over under.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, let's move over to the other side of the country and this the Minnesota and Mavs. Just a quick, that's going to be game 1 Wednesday. Dallas, it's a 4-point line in favor of Minnesota. Dallas is a plus 148. Minnesota is a minus 176. I'm going to take Minnesota at home until they show me otherwise. I know that it was kind of funky when they played the Nuggets, but the Nuggets were defending champions with the MVP. I mean, that's the toughest road you're going to kind of go down. And I mean, I think Minnesota takes the first game, and you guys kind of got my opinion when it comes to the series. I just don't know if the Mavs are really going to hang with Minnesota when it comes to both sides of the ball, offense and defense. What do you guys think?
Yeah, this is an interesting series, but I think to me, just like with the Boston and Indiana series, I have the Timberwolves winning in 6. But for the Timberwolves to really compete, they're going to need Kyrie to go vintage Kyrie, in my opinion. 17 points against it. Yeah. For the Mavs, my apologies. For the Mavs to really compete,
You're good.
they're going to need to score more. They're going to need to score more. They're going to have to score, because I don't see how they're going to be able to contain the paint with Edwards being able to drive the ball, with Karl-Anthony Towns in the paint, and then Rudy Gobert isn't the best offensive threat, but he can still score in there with his height and length. But yeah, 17 points from Kyrie is not going to do it if the Mavs are going to want to be able to contend. And Ant's going to be covering him, so that'd be a good matchup to watch. And I'm sure Luka will do his thing, but you know, when it comes to these big,
You sure they won't put him on Luka?
I'm sure he'll move around, but
Okay.
I mean, that was
Depending
one of
on
the
what
first
side of the court.
players- Yeah, I'm sure he'll move around, but that was one of the first players he mentioned after the Nuggets series. But yeah, I have the Timberwolves winning this series. Honestly, my gut feeling was whoever won out of Minnesota and Denver was going to move on to the finals. So I have Minnesota moving on to the finals, just as you do.
All right. Are you on the Anthony Edwards bandwagon, as I have been all podcasts? I know you said you were starting to, and that he's really come into his own as one of your favorite players.
Yeah, I'm rooting for him. I don't know. I think I'm still undecided. I think that this Dallas Mavericks team is really, really good and primed to make a probably a really good run at this thing to beat the Timberwolves. But I like Anthony Edwards a lot, so I'm still torn. I don't know where I'm going to go. I think I'm just going to bet this one game by game because I really can't get a beat on who I like for a series. There's really no value that I like, so I can't really value hunt like I would in this Pacers series right now. But I expect good games, and I'm going to try to get some bets in there and try to make some money on it whenever I can.
All right. Just a quick finals to win the finals. It's Boston and Minnesota than everybody else. Boston is a minus 150 to win the title. Minnesota is a plus 270, and then the Mavs drop down to a plus 500. So plus 270, plus 500, and then Pacers are a plus 2,800.
Damn. They don't they're not giving them any love.
That's rough.
Nope.
They're
Man,
not
I feel
the
like-
Pacers they're not even injured like that, right? I think that's
No.
crazy. So for
They're-
It's because they're
2,800
playing Boston. It's everybody
listen to
jerking
this.
off into their napkin over Boston.
Yeah,
I don't
listen to this.
understand all the love
You
for
got to put
Boston.
some money on that. You got to put
Yes.
you got to put at least some money. If you guys are listening to this podcast right now,
$10.
if you can find, put $5 or $10 if you got it laying around. I just feel like because they would have so much momentum if they were able to beat Boston. They really don't have injuries, and they're already one step away. So it's like you put $10, and that's a really good.
And they got a chip
payout.
on their shoulder. I feel like they're playing with the chip on their shoulder. That's why they did what they did to
5-point game
the
right now.
the Knicks. Yeah. So, we'll see.
I just don't understand all the Boston love. I understand, they have good players, but it's every year they choke. That's the way I look at it. They've had Tatum
Every
and
year.
Brown for like 7 or 8 years, and it's like they'll win one. They'll win. They choke every year.
When
Like that's why, yeah, they're obviously they're talented. They're good. They usually have one of the best records in the East, but every year in the playoffs they quake. At some point they quake.
facts.
They
Whether it's the
quake.
Warriors or the Bucks.
Sorry, Kurt. All right. Go, go! Oh, that was funny. It was like DJing. Anyway, so y'all know what the sound is. We're going to talk some Premier League. Now, there is no parlay this week because Premier League is done. So congratulations to the fourth consecutive Premier League championship title to your Manchester City Football Club.
Woo!
Congratulations, Pep Guardiola. Congratulations to Erling Haaland. He won his second Golden Boot, I believe. Altogether, dude, in the last 12 years, Man City has won 6 titles. 6 titles
Wow.
since
Pretty
2012.
impressive.
It is very impressive for a team to do that. I mean, they're basically the Patriots of football, soccer.
Right.
However you guys want to call it. But it's crazy. It was a good one. Hopefully you guys put in for that because back in the day when I said the Premier League was going on, this is even during football season, they were a plus 800 to win the Premier League. So hopefully you guys took that. I took that. And yeah, won some cash. Hopefully you guys have been taking the Premier Parlay. I'm going to try to replace that with baseball this summer. I got to see how the sportsbook apps operate with baseball because if we air the episodes Thursday, we record on Tuesdays, and there's a 2-day gap. So with soccer, they play it on the weekends, kind of like football. So I can look ahead and see the soccer games on the weekend. Usually with baseball and basketball, they kind of just put the games like with the first 24 to 36 hours ahead of today's games and tomorrow's games. They usually don't go further out. I might have to actually dive deep into the crevice of the internet and the dark corners and dig up some odds. So we'll see. But congratulations to them. I just wanted to bring it up. The Columbus Crew hit the top 5. So we actually could do that. I could actually do the Premier Parlay of the week with MLS. Problem is it's a little harder to gauge at MLS. That's the only deal there. It's really hard to gauge because it's not the cream of the crop when it comes to soccer. But yeah. But cream of the crop. It's time for conference finals and NHL. And let's talk about them because I got a couple of things here for you, Hunter. If you were interested in hearing them, the Florida Panthers are a minus 150 over the New York Rangers at a plus 130 to win the series.
What? Hold on. What you said? The Panthers are.
The Panthers are favored to win the series.
Oh man,
which is crazy. I was going to ask you.
You might have just hold on. You might have just told me some shit, man. I might have to get on the sports.
No. I'm not done. I'm not done with the disrespect to the New York Rangers.
Oh man, plus
the New York Rangers
to win the series.
Listen, the New York Rangers are fourth, which is last out of the teams left to win the Stanley Cup at a plus 400.
What? You know what? Florida.
But here's the kicker. You know who's first? Florida at a plus 215.
I think it should be Edmonton, especially with their history of choke jobs and just chokeness that they've done through the years.
Dude, the disrespect is awful because the Oilers are a plus 280. They're not even in the 300s. They go from plus 80 in third place, and then they drops to the New York Rangers in fourth.
Do you got a series price for the other one, Oilers and Stars?
Yes, sir, I do. I got for the Dallas Stars a minus 125 to win the series over the Oilers, who are at a plus 105. So, series is a little closer in odds.
Ooh, that's close. Okay.
So what do you think about these games? You're the hockey man. I just gave you the odds.
Yeah, you know what? I really do like New York. They're on a 30-year drought of just pretty much all their sports teams have been bad. But this Rangers team, they were pretty successful. What would that have been? Like late 90s, 80s, 90s. I remember them being really successful.
I don't know.
And
dude, I couldn't even tell you what team Wayne Gretzky played on, but I know who Wayne Gretzky is and that he was really awesome.
He played on a couple of teams, but it was mostly the Oilers.
Oh, see,
for this series, I would say for the first one, Florida and New York, I'm definitely putting a little bit of money down on New York Rangers at plus money. I just think New York ending their drought and at least getting to the Cup final makes a lot more sense than Florida repeating. They're a great team. They're physical. I think that'll be a great series. But I would definitely put a little bit of money down at plus money for the Rangers to win that series.
All right. There you have it, folks. And what do you about the Stars and Oilers? Who's coming out of that one?
For Stars and Oilers, I was listening to it. See, because Edmonton's been so, they're so consistent in choking, I want to say this is finally the year that they get over the hump and defeat Dallas. But, man, Dallas has just been a really good team. Just solid playing together. That home crowd is one of the best, especially, they're all good, but that Dallas hockey crowd has been pretty crazy. So I think that could lead to some good games as the series does start in Dallas. So they definitely got to get off on the right foot. But at just a coin flip of a price, I really don't got to beat on a series winner for that one yet. I think that'll just be another one that I go game by game.
I would say that Dallas is booming right now. And if you're a Cowboys fan, I would trade in my Dak Prescott jersey and go get me a Luka jersey and go get me some Dallas Star sweaters.
They got a sweet black
two
Dallas
teams.
Stars sweater that they can have. They got a sweet black Dallas Stars jersey. Trade that Dak Prescott jersey in right now. Yeah, for real.
They haven't seen that. They haven't seen conference finals in 30 years for their football team.
You got to get them shots in wherever you can, huh, Tony?
I'm just saying, it'd probably be better for you guys to just switch sports. It just would be better. Dallas Cowboys are the Canadians of football. All right? When it comes to hockey, if you're comparing the two. Dallas Cowboys are the Canadians of football. Tell me I'm lying. Tell me I'm lying. All right, I got a question for you guys. So, I tried to get you guys to do something in the playoffs last year, September, October. I tried to get you guys to watch baseball. All right. We literally have probably 2, maybe 3 weeks left of other sports other than baseball. Are you going to watch? Are we going to pay attention? Because it has been a nasty year so far. It's been see, I'm a Phillies fan, and Phillies have been great this year. People want to say it's because they didn't play anybody, but here's the thing: the Phillies have not been good the last 6 years. They've only been good the last 2. So you can't. They were a wild card team last year. They had to beat somebody to actually get into the playoffs. That's they weren't like, it wasn't like they were the top seed and went to the World Series 2 years ago. No, they were a wild card team and had to beat the number 1 seed in the Braves, and they did. Last year, same thing. They were the wild card team and had to beat the number 1 seed in the Braves, and they did. So it's not like people, when they go, oh well, the Phillies had an easy schedule. The Phillies aren't like a juggernaut of a team. It's been really crazy. But I got some leaders for you guys. Okay? But before I do that, I want to know, will you watch some baseball this summer?
Why can't we watch baseball?
What do you mean, why can't you?
Us three are like,
I will watch baseball. I do. I was drinking bourbon and peach tea, sitting on my deck the other day of the weekend, listening to the games. I do watch and listen to baseball. It's you two that were like, baseball.
I think that's the only way. Well, not the only way, but I think that would be a better way to get into something, is like to watch it with people and just sip a little something, maybe. Not opposed to it. But I have a hard time sitting down. Like if it was a baseball game on right now, I'd have a hard time sitting down and watching it for the next 3 hours. That's what I'm saying.
What's fun to watch in baseball, and I said it too, that baseball's gotten better since they implemented the pitch clock, is the pitching. Like pitching is the most exciting thing to watch when it's really good pitching. Like when you watch a guy who's on it and how he just fakes out the batter. Because that's what they're trying to do. They're trying to get the batter to swing, right? So it's like throwing feints, people are like, wow, why is he throwing so many balls? Does he not know how to pitch? No, that's the point. He's making it look like a strike, and then his slides, it cuts down out of the strike zone and fakes out the batter. So just cool stuff like that. And you know what, Kurt? So I got tickets. We got tickets to a Phillies game. We're going to Detroit in July to watch the Phillies play. Dude, check this out. Detroit is so bad. I bought those tickets for $7 a piece. Let me preface this by saying that Mud Hens tickets, one Mud Hens ticket is $20. I got 2 tickets to go to Detroit to watch the Phillies play for $22 total. That included all the fees.
That's unbelievable.
Maybe we can talk about making a little road. We can make a little road trip, and I'll go to that game.
A professional sport.
Go ahead, yeah, get on there.
$22, but then the Mud Hens $20. That's crazy.
Yeah.
That's in Detroit. Wow.
It is crazy, but for the people out there, I'm gonna give you guys some cool things here, and maybe Kurt, if you want, you can make a random baseball team pick. If you're like, they got a Pittsburgh team, they got the Pittsburgh Pirates. They're just god awful. So I would recommend.
They've been terrible for the past 20 They're
listen,
trash.
Hey, listen. In 120 years, the Phillies have won 2 titles. Okay, so in 120 years, so I get you. They actually have the record for most games lost in a season. All right, that's how bad the Phillies are. But you know what? As of late, they've been good. I've been happy in my old age here. But the Yankees are leading the AL East 33-16. All right, and the Orioles are in second at 29-16. The NL East right now, Phillies, best record in baseball right now, 34-14. Braves 27-17 in the NL East there. But the Phillies, I mean, they were the first to 20 wins in the season. They were the first to 30 wins in this season. So they're and I'll get to it here in a bit. And it's not just because they're hitting well and scoring runs. Their pitching has been pretty on point. Ranger Suarez is coming to his own. But let's go to the National League Central, and let's the Brewers 27-20, and then the Chicago Cubs 26-20. Like I think the NLC is not good in my opinion, but the NLS is your World Series champions are probably going to come out of the NL this year. I mean, it's going to between the Dodgers and Phillies, unless the Phillies fall off the face of the mat. Dodgers are 33-17, and Padres are 25-25. So I mean, it's just the Dodgers and everyone else, and Shohei Ohtani's obviously doing good. Shohei Ohtani is in the top 5 of every major category in offense and batting, which is crazy. He is not too much in pitching, but when it comes to batting, he's up there. And the AL Central, you got Cleveland. Cleveland is doing really well this year. Cleveland's 31-17.
Guardians.
All right, but the Royals are right behind them at 30-19. So a few more games to go there, obviously. And the West, it's the Mariners and Rangers. They're both trash. They're like the NL Central. All right. But here's this. Check this out. With his batting, Ohtani's been blowing it up. So in batting average, Shohei Ohtani's at 1 with a .353 batting average. And then Mookie Betts is number 4 on the Dodgers. So the Dodgers offense is pretty nasty. You got Mookie Betts in 4th. Home runs, Ohtani is tied for 4th with 13. Then you got Aaron Judge from the Yankees with 13 and Henderson from the Orioles. He's got 16 runs. So that's pretty good. Ribbies, though. Bryce Harper is in the top 10. And so the Phillies got 2 players when it comes to ribbies. Do you know what ribbies are, Kurt? RBIs?
Is that like runs something inside? I don't know. No, I don't.
run. Yeah. So it's weird, but it's like, so if you got 2 people on base, and even if I get out, if I hit a ball and 2 runners are able to go in, or I hit a home run, I get credit for RBIs for them too. So I'm scoring points. It's basically I'm scoring points or runs for my team, right? Because there's 2 people on base. Let's just say 2 people got on base, and I hit a home run, and I bring those 2 in. That gives me 2 RBIs for the season. All right, does that make sense?
So it's like an assist.
Yeah, in a sense. Yeah, in a sense, but you get credit. Like it's a pretty big. It's better than assists. Like they're more important than assists because that's what when you hear the word cleanup, like you got your obviously your first hitter, and then your second, and then you got your cleanup hitter at 4 because you want your first 3 to get on base, bases loaded, and 4th to hit a home run. So what's your best batter at 4th? To get those ribbies. So there's a strategy involved for the most part. But for ribbies, you got Zuna from Atlanta, who's got 43. Alec Bohm is in 2nd, who plays for the Phillies. He's got 42, but Bryce Harper is in 8th right now with 35. So, I mean, the Phillies got 2 top 10 players there. But Cincinnati, Dela Cruz, we talked a little bit about him last year when you guys first jumped on the podcast. Dela Cruz has 30 steals so far this year. He has stolen 30. Do you know the second place player, how many he has? 18. 18. 18. And Dela Cruz has 30. So that's the description. I mean, my man is fast. He likes to steal bases, and he blows that shit up. But this is why the Phillies are so good this year, because of their pitching. Their pitching has been pretty fantastic so far. So, like, when it comes to starting pitching and getting the wins and all that, the Phillies have 2 in the top 5 in Ranger Suarez and Aaron Nola. The best ERA in the league right now is Ranger Suarez. He's by far one of the best pitchers. He's their 3rd rotational guy. It goes Zach Wheeler, it goes Aaron Nola, and then it goes Ranger Suarez. That's their top 3 rotation. And then saves. You got Clase. It's Clase from Cleveland. Clase, he has 14 saves, which means like, it's I have to get this terminology for you one day, Kurt, so you kind of get it. But I just told you about Zach Wheeler. He's got the 4th most strikeouts in the league. And then LA, this is where the Dodgers actually are pretty good in pitching. Their strikeouts, they got the most strikeouts in the league. His name is Gleason or something like that. And then Zach Wheeler also is 5th in the league with quality starts. So the Phillies got in almost every category, 1 or if not 2 players top 5 in pitching categories. So that's why they've been doing so well this year, on top of, having a decent offense, stuff like that. So we'll have to get you sitting down and watching a game. I like watching baseball live. I will watch it on TV from time to time, but it is a really good time. So I want you guys to try to watch some baseball so we can talk some ball in the off season, because I think that's what mainly we're going to get down to at the end of July a little bit, after we get done with our big show, our 3-part series that we're going to do. That's going to be fun. It's a little teaser for the folks, the 3-part series.
Most certainly.
You watching? You going to watch?
You said do what? I'm gonna watch.
You going to watch some baseball? Yeah, you going to watch.
Oh yeah. I'm gonna try. I like the Tigers, and like you said with pitching, I like good pitching. Good pitching can be fun to watch. I did agree with Kurt to an extent about the lengthiness of the games and not wanting to wait for 3 hours to watch a single baseball game. But with the pitch clock and everything kind of speeding things up like that, I think it's a little more easy to stomach a baseball game these days, especially if you're just watching it at home. And then
You watch
when
a
there's
3-hour
good
football game.
But I mean, for a casual fan, I feel like, you know what I mean? Like, a casual fan,
I know.
it's hard for them to stomach that. But I think that, good pitching matchups I'm going to try to watch with the Tigers, because I also like the pitching, but we'll see.
Gotcha. So basically, Hunter can't stomach baseball. Hunter can't stomach the Tigers. But if you could stomach this episode and enjoyed it of the Shuckle Up podcast, please go subscribe to our podcast on all the podcast platforms. Also, please share all of our content on our social media. You can find that at Shuckle Up Podcast on all the social media platforms. And go head over to Apple Podcasts and leave us a review. It helps others find the podcast. And of course, we enjoy reading them as well. If you have any cares, questions, or concerns, please email us at shucklepodcast@gmail.com. You can find Kurt and Hunter on everything at Made on Ridgeway Sports Podcast across all social media platforms and podcast platforms. Go over to Twitter and follow myself at AnnieUpAnthony. Go follow Hunter at Hunter_Keister4 and follow K-Mac at K_Mac7. Thank you for listening, everyone. And remember, do not bet your mortgage.